Here's what's coming up on The World Today. Joy to the world as the EU and Britain finally agree on a trade deal just a week to the end of the year. The deal is fantastic news to the UK government as it says everything the British public was promised during the 2016 referendum and in the general election last year is delivered by this deal. Plus, US President Donald Trump's Christmas present to a few friends is a presidential pardon. Merry Christmas and a warm welcome to our viewers here in Nigeria and around the world. I'm Akaite Afia. They made it right before Christmas, talking about the UK and the EU, who just a few hours ago agreed on a trade deal, meaning Britain will in fact be leaving the EU on December 31st. Talks had been deadlocked for months after the two sides were unable to reach an agreement in areas such as fishing quotas, how the UK would use state aid to support British business post-Brexit, and legal oversight of any deal struck. EU leaders, the European Parliament, and the UK government will all need to now approve the agreement on their own. Plus, the legal text of the agreement will first be translated, reviewed, and approved by all 27 EU member states. Once the member states give their sign-off, it will then go back to the European Parliament, where members of European Parliament will vote to ratify the deal. EU leaders have been reacting to the deal as well. EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen says the deal is fair, balanced, and is the right and responsible thing to do. EU Brexit negotiator Michel Barnier called the deal a relief as the clock is no longer ticking.
It was a long and winding road, but we have got a good deal to show for it. It is fair, it is a balanced deal, and it is the right and responsible thing to do for both sides. Competition in our single market will be fair and remain so. The EU rules and standards will be respected. We have effective tools to react if fair competition is distorted and impacts our trade. Secondly, we will continue cooperating with the UK in all areas of mutual interest. For example, in the field of climate change, energy, security, and transport. Together, we still achieve more than we do apart.
The clock is no longer ticking. After 4 years of collective effort and EU unity to preserve peace and stability on the island of Ireland, to protect the citizens and the single market, to build a new partnership with the UK. Today is a day of relief, but tinged by some sadness as we compare what came before with what lies ahead.
The British government has reacted to the deal, calling it fantastic news for families and businesses in every part of the UK. It is said to be the first trade agreement based on zero tariffs and zero quotas that has ever been achieved with the EU. The deal is the biggest bilateral trade deal signed by either side, covering trade worth £668 billion in 2019. Prime Minister Boris Johnson says the deal was done by a huge negotiating team from every part of the UK, and it will benefit every part of the United Kingdom. He also said the deal means certainty for the aviation industry, the haulers, the police, the border forces, and all those that keep us safe.
Very pleased to tell you this afternoon that we have completed the biggest trade deal yet, worth £660 billion a year, a comprehensive Canada-style free trade deal between the UK and the EU, a deal that will protect jobs across this country, a deal that will allow goods, UK goods and components to be sold without tariffs and without quotas in the EU market, a deal which will, if anything, allow our companies and our exporters to do even more business with our European friends, and yet which achieves something that the people of this country instinctively knew was doable, but which they were told was impossible. We've taken back control of our laws and our destiny. We've taken back control of every jot and tittle of our regulation in a way that is complete and unfettered. From January the 1st, we are outside the customs union and outside the single market. British laws will be made solely by the British Parliament, interpreted by UK judges sitting in UK courts, and the jurisdiction of the European Court of Justice will come to an end.
Hours before the deal was announced, residents of London and Brussels kept hope alive a deal would be reached today. They seem more pleased with the results of today's negotiations.
It's a compromise. It had to happen. It would have been totally ridiculous if it hadn't. So I hope they've done something sensible.
I'm really pleased we're getting a deal. And I think it's light at the end of the tunnel. I think we've had a terrible year, and I think it's really good news, quite honestly. I was afraid of a no deal.
I think we need a deal. Yeah, I do. Otherwise, I think we're going to end up as a sad small island, and I think we need to keep what contacts we've got. I think it's really important.
Well, it's better than a no deal, but still all of the disadvantages of leaving the European Union. So it's making the best of a bad job.
Well, joining us now is immigration lawyer Dio Fadina, who joins us from London. A Merry Christmas to you, Mr. Fadina, and thanks so much for joining us on the program.
Oh, it's a pleasure, Katie, for joining you. Thank you.
Thank you. So the UK has been handed a Christmas present. Does this deal make you happy at all, and is it a good deal in your opinion?
Well, I'll just start by saying thank goodness that we now have a deal. I was quite, not particularly certain last week, and a little bit gutted that there was a situation where we might not possibly have a deal. But thank goodness we now have this deal. The ebbing and the flowing, the faffing, the pussyfooting of the EU and the UK for the last 1 year has now come to an end. And it's always good to have a positive conversation because positive conversations in any negotiation are always a big healer. And it's good that we have this deal. I'm a little bit optimistic about it, but until we know of the full details of what the deal is all about, I won't be able to comment very clearly on what that could be. But overall, and in principle, I believe that we have a very good, that we've at least brokered a very good thing for the UK. The UK citizens, businesses, they've been very, very, precarious and not knowing where they're going or coming. But with this assurance that we have a deal at this point in time is very helpful.
Well, clearly you do think that it is a good deal, but of course the deal has to be taken back to EU member states to ratify and to the UK Parliament for Parliament to also absorb. So what have you gleaned from the tidbits about the deal on how is it a win-win?
I believe it's a win-win deal, and I'll say this for these reasons. One, if we did not have a deal, what would have happened would be that we would have crashed out of the EU without a deal, and that would have been disastrous, and very big, a big damage to the UK economy. But now that we have a deal, business could still trade, in between the UK and the EU without any problems. There wouldn't be any tariff on imported goods, and there will be a situation where people could always now, cooperate. The EU and the UK will now be able to cooperate very well on climate change, security, transport, and so many other areas that I feel that they will be able to, cooperate in. And at this point, the EU now believes that now that they've brokered this deal, the UK still remains a very trusted friend. Whether that would be the case in the next 3, 4, 6 months, time will tell. But in my opinion, I believe that getting a deal at this point was a very, very good thing. And it would help both the UK economy and the EU overall.
All right. Well, thanks again, Mr. Fadina, and please do have a very Merry Christmas.
And you too. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Over to the United States now, as Democrats and Republicans block each other's attempts to amend a vital $2.3 trillion stimulus package after President Donald Trump asked for changes. The president wants one-off payments to Americans to be increased from $600 to $2,000 and for foreign aid to be cut. Without the bill in force, many Americans face an uncertain Christmas. Democrats in the House of Representatives have also backed Republican attempts to cut foreign aid, while Republicans refuse to allow the increase in coronavirus payments to $2,000. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said the lower chamber would meet again on Monday to vote on the payments. It is also due to vote on an unrelated defense spending bill, which President Trump vetoed on Wednesday. The $740 billion bill passed Congress this month, and lawmakers could override the veto. Mr. Trump is objecting to provisions that limit troop withdrawals from Afghanistan and Europe and remove Confederate leaders' names from military bases. Some of President Trump's friends got his Christmas present Wednesday evening after he pardoned them. Who did he pardon? Ford campaign manager Paul Manafort, ex-advisor Roger Stone, and the father of Trump's son-in-law, Charles Kushner. Now, let's remember, Mr. Manafort was convicted in 2018 in an investigation into alleged Russian meddling in the 2016 U.S. election. Trump had previously commuted the prison sentence of Roger Stone, who was convicted of lying to Congress. Charles Kushner, a real estate magnate, was sentenced to 2 years in prison in 2004 for Charles, including tax evasion, campaign finance offenses, and witness tampering. All three men are among 29 people to benefit from Trump's latest pardons before he leaves the office next month. 26 of them won full pardons on Wednesday night, while another 3 received commutations. Well, international affairs analyst Calvin Dark joins us now on the program. Calvin, great to see you this Christmas season.
Good to see you.
So, speaking of the Christmas season, I'll bet these people who have been pardoned by the U.S. president feel like they got a nice gift this year. I know Democrats are mad at the president right now, but what do Americans think of the pardons, and how do you interpret these for the country going forward?
Well, I think that the most unfortunate part is that we have so many people suffering economically and, health-wise because of the pandemic. And the president is at his billionaire resort in Florida, having refused to sign the bill that would have given them the piddly $600 of stimulus aid. So I think that's the first part. As it relates to the pardons, I think it sickens a lot of folks, Democrats and Republicans in this country, just because it's clear this isn't righting an injustice. He's paying back people who are loyal to him. And it wasn't just people that were involved in the Russia investigation. He only pardoned those who refused to cooperate fully in defense of him. So I think that leaves a bad taste in most people's mouths. But the bigger issue that we're facing here is what he did was completely constitutional. And it reminds us that we give this power, and maybe we should need to rethink that, because in this case, I think it's being abused.
Well, it is clear that America's political and democratic system will never be the same again following this year's election and all of the controversy surrounding it. Do Americans still have faith in their leaders, and what sort of impact do you think this could have on how America relates with the rest of the world?
Well, I think the good thing is after January 20th, and I think maybe in a couple of years, when we look back, we'll realize there was no controversy. Joe Biden defeated Donald Trump with more than Donald Trump defeated Hillary Clinton, and he had called that a landslide. So there wasn't really a controversy. It was a campaign by Donald Trump to make people think there was a controversy, but there wasn't. So I think in that sense that our system will be okay once Trump is gone. Now, when it relates to how we interact internationally, I think that this will make us think a little bit harder about what we demand as far as democracy goes with our international partners, and to square that with what we allow here at home. And I hope that we raise the bar on what we expect internationally and domestically.
All right. Well, thanks again, Calvin, and have a very Merry Christmas.
You too.
Thank you. Welcome back. Thousands of lorries were still stuck at a former airport near Dover, Europe's busiest truck port, on Wednesday, despite traffic starting to flow again across the channel between Britain and France. Huge queues of trucks were parked up at Manston, 20 miles away from Dover, in the southeast country of Kent, with a help sign made from traffic cones visible from the air. France and many other countries halted passenger traffic from Britain because of an outbreak of a new variant of the COVID-19 virus identified by British authorities. London and Paris negotiated a deal to allow certain categories of people to travel from Britain to France. Thousands of trucks were waiting to cross the channel, with all drivers now required to test negative for COVID-19 before being allowed to proceed. Well, let's look at developments surrounding the coronavirus now. Beginning with the U.S. setting a new record high in hospital admissions, with more than 119,400 in hospital with COVID-19 nationwide. The country has had more than 100,000 people in hospital due to the virus every day since December, according to the COVID Tracing Project. Meanwhile, Mexico has started its mass vaccination program with the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine. Here's the global update.
Israelis vent their anger after Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the country will impose a third national lockdown to fight climbing COVID-19 infections. The curbs will come into effect on Sunday evening and last for 14 days, pending final cabinet approval. Over in Europe, Italians woke up on Christmas Eve to a nationwide lockdown, which is in effect for much of the holidays. Under the new rules, Italians will only be allowed to travel for work, health, or emergency reasons. China has announced the indefinite ban on flights to and from the UK due to the emergence of a highly infectious new coronavirus variant. Meanwhile, travellers who have been in South Africa in the past 10 days are now banned from entering the UK. The ban does not apply to British and Irish citizens, but they must isolate on arrival. The ban was introduced after a new variant of COVID-19 was found in people who had been to South Africa. According to officials, French President Emmanuel Macron is no longer showing symptoms of COVID-19 and can now end his self-isolation. In other developments in the country, France has approved the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine for use. The ruling comes days after the European Medicines Agency recommended the vaccine for the EU's 27 states. Serbia's Prime Minister Ana Brnabić has become the first person to receive the COVID-19 vaccine in the country, kicking off a mass inoculation drive with doses developed by Pfizer and BioNTech.
For all of us.
And finally, Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison used his Christmas message this year to thank elderly Australians for their strength during 2020, as officials urged Sydney residents to limit their Christmas festivities.
It is the tradition of these messages to give a shout out to a group at Christmas who have done so much. So I do want to thank and honour all our older Australians in aged care and their carers. They have really endured a lot this year. With visits limited and the loss of hugs and kisses and visits from the company of family. It's been terribly hard. This year, we saw you draw on that well of strength that you have displayed over your entire lifetime. And in doing so, you kept others safe.
Australia's most populous city has been virtually isolated from the rest of the country, with state border closures or compulsory 14-day isolation for Sydney arrivals.
The Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem, Pier Battista Pizzaballa, today arrived in Bethlehem to lead muted Christmas celebrations. A less than usual crowd of faithful greeted the Patriarch at Mangers Square in striking contrast to what would normally be a frenetic scene. Shortly before his arrival, the Patriarch, who himself has contracted COVID-19 and recovered, delivered his Christmas message next to the Israeli-built separation barrier between Israel and the West Bank. Pizzaballa will lead this year's reduced midnight mass at the Church of the Nativity.
As I said, it's a sad Christmas because we cannot celebrate because of COVID restrictions. But we try to celebrate this in family and in community as much as possible. And despite everything, we want to celebrate because Christmas is a message of hope and life. So there is no space for frustration and fear.
Santa Claus has told everyone to stay safe and healthy and keep connected with each other on Wednesday before setting off with his reindeer from his hometown on the Arctic Circle on the Around the World trip. This Christmas season is officially open, but the crowds were absent this year to see Santa off due to restrictions in place to tackle the global coronavirus pandemic. Every year, thousands of people from around the world make their way to Santa Claus Village near Rovaniemi in northern Finland to visit Santa and his busy elves.
We have all lived through really different and difficult times. The Christmas season will hopefully bring a little relief, although special times will continue. Now is the time to relax and to spend Christmas with your loved ones, but it's also worth remembering friends and relatives or even acquaintances who can be connected in a variety of new different ways. No one is left alone. Contact is sure to please. Parents should also pay special attention to children and young people, as the past pandemic year has been tough for them too. Many children have said this out loud to me. Among the wishes of toys and technology, there have been many hopes for a time together with parents. That is, a time when things are done together. I now wish everyone a very happy and peaceful Christmas. Stay safe and healthy. Remember to follow all important recommendations and instructions.
Well, that is all for the world today. I'm Akaite Afia, wishing you a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.